I came across some images this week that stopped me in my tracks. On first glance, I thought I was looking at some 1930s German propaganda posters, and then I realized these were current U.S. Department of Labor propaganda posters. And I was speechless. But I'm not anymore, so let me tell you about it. In September 2025, the Department of Labor launched something called Project Firewall, and at first glance, the policy looks like a straightforward initiative about enforcing visa rules. But once you see the imagery they're using, you can't unsee it. Every poster is drenched in flags and whiteness, smiling white families, white men in hard hats, mothers and daughters with perfect hair under red, white, and blue skies. Slogans like, "Restore the American Dream," plastered across the top in bold letters. And the name of the program, Project Firewall, as if America needs to build a digital barricade to protect itself from outsiders. And if your first reaction is, what's wrong with showing white families? Take a pause. Ask why, in a country as beautifully diverse as ours, only white faces were chosen to represent the American dream. That question alone says a lot about who this campaign is really talking to. I teach history, and if there's one thing it's taught me, it's that the same patterns keep resurfacing from the fall of the Roman Republic to the rise of modern authoritarian movements. Propaganda like this doesn't appear out of thin air. It grows out of fear, and it spreads fastest when people mistake nationalism for pride. Let's start with what Project Firewall actually is. According to the Department of Labor, it's an enforcement campaign to investigate employers who misuse the H-1B visa system, the program that allows companies to hire foreign workers with specialized skills. They say the goal is to safeguard American jobs and restore the American dream by making sure companies hire U.S. workers first. Sounds noble, right? Until you look closer. Because when government messaging starts centering Americans first and showing only white faces, we have to ask, who exactly counts as American in their vision? This isn't really about wage protection. It's about identity. It's about telling the public that foreigners are to blame for stagnant wages and lost jobs, not corporate greed, not policy failures, not a system that's been rigged against working people for decades. They're using the same scapegoating playbook we've seen in every era of decline. That word firewall isn't accidental either. It suggests danger on the other side, something to contain, something to fear. But what they're calling a firewall looks a lot more like a wall of exclusion. And that phrase, restoring the American dream, that's what sends shivers up my spine, because when politicians talk about bringing America back, we have to ask, back to what? To a time when women couldn't open a bank account without their husband's signature? When Black Americans were denied the vote through poll taxes and literacy tests? Or when immigrants were told to change their names and speak English or go home? That's not restoration, that's regression. The posters show a dream frozen in the 1950s, a dream that never existed for millions of Americans. And when the federal government uses that imagery, it's basically ratting itself out. It's saying the quiet part out loud, that the ideal worker, the real American, is still white, Christian, and native born. We've seen this before. In Germany in the 1930s, the propaganda posters looked almost identical, as I mentioned in the beginning. Heroic workers, national colors, slogans about purity and renewal. In the United States, similar imagery was used in the Jim Crow South, in wartime recruiting drives, and anti-immigrant movements. Every time the message was the same: your suffering is someone else's fault. It's a dangerous seed to plant, especially at a moment when fear and anger are already running pretty damn high. Here's what gets lost in that narrative. The H-1B program isn't stealing jobs from Americans. It's part of a global economy that this country built, one that depends on immigrant labor at every level, from farm fields to hospitals to high-tech labs. If the system is broken, the answer isn't to vilify the people trying to work within it. It's to fix the policies, not the people. But fixing policies doesn't make for good propaganda. Foreigners are the problem, does. It creates an enemy. It distracts from corporate tax cuts, gutted unions, and runaway profits. And it invites ordinary Americans to see themselves as victims of their neighbors instead of the system that exploits them both. That's why this little propaganda campaign matters. Because propaganda doesn't always announce itself with swastikas or marching boots. Sometimes it comes wrapped in red, white, and blue. Sometimes it shows you a smiling family and says, this is what America should look like again. But if that dream only has room for some of us, then it was never the American dream to begin with. The real dream is the one we've been fighting toward, not back to. A dream of equality, opportunity, and belonging. A dream big enough to hold everyone. So when you see these posters or hear the word Project Firewall, remember what's being protected and from whom. Because the people, most often painted as threats, are usually the ones holding this country together. In classrooms, hospitals, construction sites, farms, and factories, they're the ones still building the dream the right way. Forward, not backward. The American dream doesn't need restoring, it needs redefining. And that starts with seeing who's already living it and fighting like hell to make sure they're not erased from the picture. Propaganda works best when it feels familiar. So the next time someone tells you they're restoring America, look closely at what and who they're leaving out. And if you believe in work like this, in truth, in history, in calling things what they are, you can help me keep going. My tip jar is in the bio. And thank you for being part of this fight to remember what America still can be someday.